also in Mombasa, and we do our wide area search. It's a continuous presence delivered by myself, by NATO, by the American-led coalition out of Bahrain. And today we've got about 7 ships in this area as a total, as well as our group up in the Gulf of Aden. It's reactive. Where we can, we're proactive, we're intelligence-led. We have broken up a lot of groups as they leave the beach, but as you saw, a lot are getting through the net. So we need to keep up the pace. Next slide. So where do you, in the merchant community, hear about all this, about those pirate camps, about the high threat areas, what you should or shouldn't do? We have stood up, and I know George has mentioned it, our Maritime Security Centre, Horn of Africa, that's the big acronym at the top, MSC HOA as we call it, where the merchant community can interact with the military forces, where you can find information about high threat areas, where you can register for group transits, where you can find out where some of the warships are, where we can talk to you about the latest trends in the region. Most importantly though, you can register your ship. I know where you are. If you get into any problems, I can respond, which is why the MSC HOA is right at the forefront of the dialogue between the military and the merchant community. So I would encourage you, and I know the Greek community is very diligent in this regard, but just to spread the message to your friends and colleagues around the world that if you go to the Maritime Security Centre, Horn of Africa, there's a wealth of information from self-protective measures to high threat areas, to how to communicate, etc. And it's a good fun. We're in the process of translating it into Chinese, into Greek, into Russian, into 7 different languages so that the entire global community can access it, whatever the main language spoken. Next slide. Those are the people with whom we work, all familiar organizations, and we get their support to keep our advice fresh and completely aligned with what we get through the maritime trade community, through the IMO, and there should not be a crack to put a cigarette wafer in between the advice given from BIMCO or OCIMF or the Joint Hull or the War Committee and our own advice on Maritime Security Centre, Horn of Africa. Next slide. Those are the sort of pages for those of you who haven't seen it. Lots of advice. We can see it there on self-protective measures, but we'll give you updated weather forecasts, we'll give you transit guidance, we'll give you intelligence, and it's there at your disposal. And it's free. All you have to do is just ask, and we'll give you membership. Next slide. You've seen all this better than I have. These are the sort of self-protective measures recommended and deployed by all sorts, and it is frightfully simple. If you are in a skiff bouncing around at the side of a 25, 30,000 ton ship in the wake, trying to maneuver a 3 or 4 meter ladder, just simple boards like this stop you doing it. And it is surprising to me that ships going through the Gulf of Aden and the Somali Basin for a ha'porth, a few dollars, I mean, it's a couple of $100 to do this sort of thing, don't take the preparations because they are remarkably successful at deterring attacks. Next slide. We also provide charts to all the merchant community, free. We're now distributing them in the Suez Canal, which give you contact details, Inmarsat numbers, web pages, emails, again, which your masters can use as a ready reckoner for your deck officers, for your chief officers, for your cadets, whatever it may be. This is how we go about business in the Gulf of Aden. And again, they're all free, and we distribute them all over the place. Next slide. And so how do we complete that loop? I think about 75% of the ships, maybe a bit high, 65% of the ships that transit through the Gulf of Aden routinely register with me, with my Maritime Security Centre. How do I get that other 30% who, for whatever reason, commercial confidentiality, issues with their insurance, their crew, for some reason don't register? Well, we now have an agreement, for instance, with Egypt, that every ship coming down through the Suez Canal, we will distribute data and information packs to. We're not registered, so again, we'll put the onus on that master in that ship heading to the area to come and register with us. We'll work with NATO and CMF to target those ships who go through, just to call up the companies and say, are you aware, MV Ujimi Flip-Flop, entering the Red Sea, we can give you support as you come into the Gulf of Aden. We'll do the LRIT, and I know the IMO have got new initiatives on that, which Simon can talk about, which we greatly welcome. And we continue to work with the trade organizations, experts like yourself, just to get the feedback on how we can improve our service. And it is important that you do let us know, because it's for you that we deliver it, not for our benefit. Next slide. That said, the pirates have been attacking warships, which is a bit silly. So that's the rough shape of it. Where are we going in the future? Well, I think the mandate will be extended until the end of 2012, which is good news. We need to keep this dialogue going. In two weeks' time, my Chief of Staff is going to Singapore, talk at a recap meeting. He's then going on to Japan to speak with some of the organizations out there. My visit here today, not only to see my military colleagues in the Ministry of Defence, but to talk to you, is vital to have this sort of engagement going between the shipping community and the maritime forces. And for me, I need to continue to work with Kenya and Seychelles so that I've got somewhere to prosecute pirates. And as an aside, the last group of pirates in Kenya that were prosecuted and found guilty were each given 20 years in jail. So it is worthwhile doing, and make sure that the region, whether that's the African Union countries or Somalia or Djibouti or Yemen, their forces again can work with us to improve the overall coverage. So I never use the word success, far from it. If another ship is seized, as one was this morning just outside the harbour of Aden, then I feel it deeply, because it's something which we can improve upon. But I think we're making progress. We're going in the right direction. We are reducing risk, and that's my primary objective. The World Food Programme is in safe hands, as is the African Union, and where I can, my ships, including a Greek frigate at the moment, are out and about intercepting pirate action groups and breaking up their ability to attack your ships. Thanks very much.
Για το επόμενο στάδιο μας έχει προσφερθεί ο άνθρωπος να